The simple future tense in Italian expresses actions and states that will happen after the moment of speaking, known in the language as futuro semplice. Its core uses show future actions, events, predictions, expectations, and even polite statements that create a soft tone. In this video, we'll see how to form the tense and when to use it. While the concept may be simple in English, using the auxiliary verb will plus a base verb, the formation in Italian is different. In general, the main rule is to use an infinitive with future endings, which are the same for all types of verbs. Are, ere, ire. Still, Italian has regular and irregular verbs, which I will show later, because for now, it's best to see the formation of regular verbs. For regular ere and ire verbs, the simple future is made by dropping the final vowel e from the infinitive and adding the endings o, I, a, emo, ete, and anno. The accents on o and a are mandatory, and they will be stressed when saying conjugations in context. So, these are the endings that we need to conjugate verbs in the tense, and they're always the same for all verbs. However, when it comes to regular verbs that end in are, there is a small change in spelling, where we need to change a in the ending itself to e, and from there, we can add the corresponding endings. Let's see some verbs from every category, starting with parlare, to speak. To conjugate parlare in the simple future, we first drop the final vowel from the verb ending. Then, because are verbs are unique, we change the a to e. Now, we can add the future endings. Keep in mind that some have accents, meaning that when saying them, they will be stressed. Parlerò, parlerai, parlerà, parleremo, parlerete, parleranno. The meaning of the phrases is I will speak, you will speak, and so on. While English has an auxiliary verb, Italian adds endings that fit the tense. Now, let's see a different type of verb, like credere, to believe. To conjugate credere in the futuro semplice, drop the final vowel and add the future endings. Crederò, crederai, crederà, crederemo, crederete, crederanno. The meaning is, I will believe, you will believe, and so on. Let's finish with the last type of verb, like dormire, to sleep. To conjugate dormire in this tense, drop the final vowel and add the future endings. Dormirò, dormirai, dormirà, dormiremo, dormirete, dormiranno. The meaning is, I will sleep, you will sleep, and so on. In general, this is how regular verbs get conjugated in the futuro semplice, but there are two types of irregular verbs in this tense. Those with spelling changes and those whose stems completely change. Let's see the first irregularity, which has special spelling rules. For verbs that end in care and gare, Italian has to maintain the hard sound of k and g, and to achieve that, we have to add the letter h. This rule is done for better sound purposes and to keep the hard sound as it's originally said in the infinitive. And a good example is in the verbs cercare, to search, and pagare, to pay. When conjugating such verbs in the futuro semplice, remember to add the letter h to keep the hard sound. Cercherò, cercherai, cercherà, cercheremo, cercherete, cercheranno. Pagherò, pagherai, pagherà, pagheremo, pagherete, pagheranno. Aside from this rule, there is a different rule for verbs that end in ciare and giare, like mangiare, to eat, and cominciare, to start. When conjugating such verbs, we drop the letter E. Mangerò, mangerai, mangerà, mangeremo, mangerete, mangeranno. Comincerò, comincerai, comincerà, cominceremo, comincerete, cominceranno. These kinds of verbs are the first irregularity in the futuro semplice, but we also have to see the verbs whose stems change. In this case, many verbs have irregular stems, but luckily, they all use the same endings. Of course, knowing all irregular verbs is impossible, so it's better to memorize the most common irregular stems and then apply the endings that we already know, like in the verbs essere, avere, fare, dire, andare, venire, stare, dare, potere, dovere, volere, sapere, vedere, vivere, tenere, and rimanere. Every verb that you see has a different irregular stem, but the conjugations will still use the same endings. Even so, a small pattern that you can notice is that many verbs drop the final vowel before R, and some verbs double this letter. So, this is how you conjugate all types of verbs in the futuro semplice. After learning the system, it's best to practice the tense with common future time expressions, like domani, dopodomani, stasera, stanotte, la prossima settimana, in futuro. As I said at the start of the video, the futuro semplice can show future actions and events, and we can see such examples. Domani parlerò con Maria. Studieremo italiano questa sera. Lui dormirà presto. At the same time, the tense can talk about predictions, probability, and even polite statements. Pioverà stasera. Sarà stanco dopo il lavoro. Avrà circa 30 anni. Dov'è Luca? Sarà a casa. Le farò sapere. Vedremo. As you can see, Italian has interesting ways to express statements that in English would often use different words, like must or probably, even showing predictive use, which is very common in the language. Overall, this is how the simple future fully works in Italian. It's used for future actions, predictions, and probability, and it has one set of endings with predictable regular verbs and common but finite irregular ones.